Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called An Eternity in an Hour, written by Riley Riles 001. If it all goes well, I'll be the last human to remember being born. I don't remember all of it. The quiet, safe slumber inside the womb, the tells and fussing, the injection and implants, though just blurs together. Although I'm sure the process was extensively documented by the military scientists present at my birth of my siblings and I. But despite what was lost in the midst of time, I still remember the highlights. I'm only human, after all. When I was born, I cried exactly once. Less of a cry, really, and more of a mewl. It was hard to keep crying, though, and I was surrounded with so many wonders. Lines of babies extended to either side of me, for as far as the newborn eye could see, I think my senses were still a bit muddled up. They looked like the smell of a hospital, and their cries tasted like lemonade. A sound caught my attention. The child to my left was burbling. I listened for a few heartbeats, then gurgled back. Glip, glip, glip. The other child stared at me surprised, then smiled, hands waving in the air. Weeble! Glip, glip, shipum, glip. I nodded sagely. Wise words for one so young. For they were words indeed. Words I hadn't deciphered yet, but words which held a meaning nonetheless. I tapped myself on the cheek and said, "You're a blah, 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 blah." My God, are they communicating? Alas, my deeply stimulating intellectual conversation was cut off by a scientist's exclamation. Every baby in the room stared at her. All right, we know what these things are capable of. We should separate them for now. The state doesn't need another young rebellion on our hands. Yet, we can't move them yet. We'd have to give them a nutrition packs on their own. The man in a dark, crisp uniform pointed behind us. Instinctively, we all turned as one. Indeed, strange tubes with dark, sludgy substance in them led into our bodies. State protocols mandate that they be kept together for the first 12 hours of development anyway. It's easier to get them up to speed. At that, the woman frowned. We could at least erect some barriers between them. There is far too little data available for us to know what they're capable of. And I don't like how they're all staring. Shouldn't babies cry? They'll be sure to relay your fears of babies to the state, the man said dryly. The woman blushed and backed down. Please stand aside, Addie. The young birthing chambers really aren't intended to have this many guests. And you're blocking the screen. The screen? What screen? Oh. Addie scuttled out of the way, apologetic, as the wall-to-wall screen behind her lit up. On the wall, a man appeared. He was nobody we'd seen before, and nobody we'd see again. As one, all of the babies turned attentively towards the screen, eager to learn about the world that we were trapped in. The man began speaking immediately. Welcome to the world, young. Today we'll be learning about everything a healthy young child needs to know to serve the state. We will begin with the alphabet. The man slid to his right in a discordant motion which matched nothing in the physical world. To his left, a single letter appeared. He began to sing. A is for Igus, the Igus of the state you protect, and you reciprocate. One of the babies began to bob in time with the music. That seemed like a splendid idea, so I joined in. Within minutes, the room was filled with dancing babies and propagandist nursery rhymes. B is for balance. Between you and me, you're all around superior, except in life expectancy. C is for charge. Your mission in life. Protect the state from monsters, discord, and strife. Experimentally, I waved my hands above my head. A pleasant metallic thump sounded from above me. Surprised, I looked up, seeing a hunk of hitherto unnoticed machinery above me. It did sound nice when I hit it. I shouted, laughing. Soon enough, our impromptu dance routine was accompanied by hundreds of tiny hands playing percussion. I'm sure that you can imagine how the rest of the song went. L was for luck. Lucky we all were. To live and be young was the life we should prefer. P was for peace. Peace without fate. Nothing was better than to die for the state. It didn't take much longer for us to figure out English. Not all of it, of course. There were great sections of English which we could never be allowed to see. but within the day, we absorbed 12 years' worth of education in geography, language, physical education, military doctrine, and propaganda. Not bad for my first day alive. They separated us after that. The machinery above us was, apparently, connected to my feeding tube, which was connected to me. A disheveled-looking assistant did something which made plenty of strange beeping noises, then strapped a backpack to my shoulders and hooked up my feeding tube to it. "You can move around now," he said. "Thank you," I smiled. For some reason, that didn't have the effect the video showed me it would. "Follow me." "Okay." R was for respect, after all. I hesitantly stood up. We'd gone over the theory in the video, but I'd never actually put it into practice, and hopped down from the bench I was on. Ooh, my legs were longer than before. Was that normal? After a few steps, I looked back. All of my siblings had gone off in different directions. I tugged at the attendant's hand and said, "Excuse me." He shivered and jerked his hand away from me. "What?" "Shouldn't we wait for them?" I pointed to my brethren. "They're not coming. Follow me." I frowned. "No, I want to go with them." He stopped walking. There was something in his eyes the video hadn't talked about, but something I instinctively recognized nonetheless. Fear. "You can't go with them," he said. "I can walk." I turned away. The other young, who looked very different than 12 hours ago, were all walking off in different directions. But I was sure that we could all get back together if we left at the same time. "Not unless I say so." The man lifted his thumb from the hidden switch, and suddenly, the trickle of dark sludge moving through my feeding tube was lessened, just a little bit. Instantly, a horrible wrongness growled through my stomach. I tried to cry out for help, but all that came out was a faint sigh as I collapsed, legs weakened, arms shriveling up. "What are you doing?" An angry man in a suit stormed in. He pointed a device at me and flipped the switch. Instantly, the flow of substance returned to its previous state. "You want a second young rebellion on your hands, do you? Say the word, and I will not hesitate to reassign you to being a combat dummy for the next 100 young soldiers who come through here." "We have to demonstrate that we're in control of them sooner or later," the disheveled attendant said. "Not in control of me," I growled. The man in the suit looked down at me and sighed. "Look at her, Tom. She is nothing more than a rebellious teenager. You can't threaten a kid into doing what you want and be surprised when they kick your ass when they grow up. Come here, kiddo." "What are you? The young are not children. They are not teenagers. They are not to be treated as such." The disheveled attendant, Tom, I assume, glared at the newcomer, who knelt down to my eye level. "I'm Minister of State, Tom. I can treat whoever I want, however the hell I want. Today, I'm going to treat this girl like a human, because she is a human." The man in the suit met my eyes. "You want to go see your brothers and sisters, right?" I nodded hesitantly. "Yeah. Can I go see them now?" "No," he said firmly. I swelled up a bit. "But what does R stand for?" he asked. "Respect your elders," I said automatically. "Correct. When I speak, I expect you to listen." He put a hand on my shoulder, gentle but firm. "You can't see your siblings right this moment, but you'll see them tomorrow, okay?" "Why?" "Because right now, the state needs your help," he smiled. "What does A stand for?" "The Igus of the state. The state protects us and we reciprocate," I rattled off, then frowned. "Protects us from what?" "The same thing you'll be protecting them from. Monsters." He made a face which was supposed to be scary, and I giggled. "And to learn how to help us, you'll have to learn alone, just for a bit. Then you and your siblings will be off to the battlefield to save us all." His eyes grew distant. "You can't keep playing forever, okay? You have to grow up sooner or later." "I grew up a lot already," I said, proud. It was true. Since this morning, I'd gained something close to 90 pounds. "Yes, that's right." The man thought for a moment and said, "Would you like to know why that is?" Tom started to say something, but the man in the suit held up a hand, glaring at him. Tom subsided. I nodded hesitantly. "You are an experiment. The result of a novel treatment the state developed not 10 years ago. We discovered that we can modify human embryos' developmental rates. A small tinker with the DNA increases their speed of growth 10 times over. The catch? Their lifespan is 10 times shorter." I thought back to the alphabet song. B is for balance, between you and me. We're all round superior, except in life expectancy. The man in the suit smiled. "That's right. You grow and learn and heal over 10,000 times as fast as a normal human does. But you need to eat 10,000 times as much and sleep 10,000 times as quickly. You might notice that you blink for longer than other people. Your body is sleeping in that time period. but you'll learn to compensate fairly quickly. This nutrient paste is just about the only thing that can keep your body fueled with the energy it needs. Never remove your nutrient tube. His eyes bore into mine, making sure I understood, until I nodded. So, what do I have to learn to protect the state? I asked. He smiled ruefully. Today, you have to learn how to kill. I'm very good at killing. Even without the implants, I now know I would be the ultimate soldier. My body knits together stab wounds and bullet holes in a matter of minutes. My mind can see where my enemy will shoot even before they do. And I'll never fall for the same trick twice. Throughout the grueling 12-hour training session, I only faltered twice, both times when my feeding apparatus was accidentally damaged. The work was fulfilling, in a way. I could see my body bulking up, feel my tactics grow more diverse, know that there was hardly a thing on earth that could stop me. One of those things was a sibling of mine. Near the end, when we sparred, our battle dragged out for an hour until I managed to collapse a building on him. He came out of it stunned enough that I could shoot him his feeding tube, sending him sprawling to the dust. The victory was untainted by my memories of how it felt to starve. I regrouped with the other young from my generation. There was already another batch of them in the room we were born, listening to the alphabet song. I smiled in reminiscence and hummed along under my breath. One of my sisters asked. I raised an eyebrow and surprised. I'm sorry, what? She smiled. You don't remember our language? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. I've been away from the other young for so long. I pulled up memories of simpler times and said back, She blushed. You shouldn't say that about one of your sisters. Yeah, Murakan Atatting Blakchak, a moten malfel, Saltex Adolve. I raised both hands and turned my torso a few degrees as I did so, adding inflection and life to the language. Shut up, she winked at me. Where's it? I was saved from having to answer that by the appearance of a man in the suit that I'd seen a while ago, in the form of a screen on the wall. Hello, Unit Gen 243. Today you'll be deployed to fight in the name of your state. Our state, 100 voices roared as one. The mission is simple. You'll be deployed at the northern front via helicopter. Anyone wearing the state's uniform, you will ignore. Anyone not wearing the state's uniform, you will kill. Understood? Our state, we roared an affirmative. The helicopter ride was short. I suppose that every second we sat waiting was a second we sat dying. Not that the notion bothered me at the time. I was at peace with our fate. We were dropped by a medical tent which was not affiliated with the state. It took longer to confirm that than it did to bludgeon them all to death. No sense wasting bullets on a point-blank shot when a pistol whip would do. After confirming there were no incoming airstrikes, we spread out. I never actually fought a tank before. It seemed like a pretty big oversight on the parts of my trainers, and I fully intended to help them remedy that mistake once I got back. But they weren't too hard to take out. I simply watched it for a few minutes until I deduced how to manipulate its path. Then worked with two of my brothers to lure it over to a tract of muddy road where I lay submerged. No tank was designed to attack the target beneath it. I made short work of it after that, despite both my arms being broken by the tank treads running over them. It took less than 12 hours to clear the city of non-state life. In hindsight, there were signs. My last wound knitted together slower than it should have. My hands turned lined with wrinkles, pale liver spots cropping up over my balding forehead. The same was happening to all my brothers and sisters. We were dying. Still, I patrolled the remnants of the city, searching for any way to finish my last mission. The apartment building was silent and dark until A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat, D is for dog. I frowned. Impossible. I closed my eyes, focusing my hearing, and listened. E is for elephant, F is for fish, G is for gorilla, H is for hat. A muffled grasp, a baby's cry. I is for igloo, J is for juice. I crashed through the boarded-up door, heart pounding. K is for kangaroo, L is for lion. A father stared up at me, terrified. Tears in his eyes as his toddler sat on the floor playing, laughing. Clapping to the tune of an artificial toy's one and only song. M is for monkey, N is for no. Hesitantly, I raised my rifle. O is for octopus, P is for pig. Please, my daughter, she just... She just loves the alphabet song. The father cowered in the corner. The child obviously gurgled. Q was for question. I knelt down by the toddler, down to her eye level. I was covered in blood and sweat and grime and lies. But the toddler didn't seem to mind. R is for ring. I took in a deep breath. I sat down and clapped along. S is for sun. I looked out the window. The sun was hidden behind the smoke of a burning city. T is for train. My mind flashed back to the only training I'd ever had. No, not like that. U is for umbrella. V is for van. The toddler looked at me and smiled. She wasn't one of the young, but there was something of us in her. W is for watch. I stood up. Something ancient, something weary raised its head inside of me. X is for box. I laughed. I couldn't help it. They couldn't even get that right. They couldn't even. Y is for why. They couldn't even get that right. Z is for zero. The toy fell silent. The room felt dark. Then I stood, trembling. And before either child or father could say anything, I leapt out the window onto the next roof over, where 4 state soldiers were looting. Instantly, 2 of my brethren were at my side. Sister, did you find something? What is? I spun around and shot all 4 state soldiers in a second. My brethren fell still. One of them said, Sister, are you? A is for atrocity. The primal thing inside me was clawing in my chest. Something painful, something tight. The atrocities we've wrought. A is for atrocity, because that's all we've been taught. I hurled myself off the roof. Below me, a pair of state helicopters. I threw 2 grenades into each of them as I fell, and rode the shockwave down. My knees shattered and reformed in an instant. B, I whispered, in the silence which reigned, is for strike back, to go on the attack. All around me, my family were watching, waiting. Then one spoke. C is for children, children just like us. Murmurs rose as the young stood up as one. State soldiers around us gritted their teeth and raised their weapons. One held the radio to her ear. T is for... Suddenly, I choked the words, mouth finding nothing but air as I felt a terrible familiar feeding. All around me, the young collapsed, like wheat before a farmer's scythe. I looked down. My feeding tube had been deactivated. Immediately, a horrible, writhing hunger screamed through me. My body burned away my fat and muscles and skin and bones to fuel an impossible metabolism. I was writhing away, but still I stood. A gruesome smile split my lips as I lurched forwards, even as I wasted away. The state soldiers took one look at my face and blanched. One foolhardy soldier raised her gun to fire at me. I shot her bullets out of the air. Then I shot her. D is for death. The death that you bring. For the last of my breath and my voice I sing. I laughed maniacally in the empty city as my body tore itself apart. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.